Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Sarah G with the Smack, and I am back. And today I have Danielle Miura. Hello, Danielle.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you, of Spark Financials. And welcome back to another episode of Does My Marketing Stink? So today we're going to be talking with Danielle. Does her marketing stink? We're going to find out. So, Danielle, before we jump into it and look at your LinkedIn, your website, what do you think about your marketing?
It used to be like throwing meatballs on the wall and hope it sticks. Um, Now I feel like I've been getting much better, but I feel like it's an improvement in process. It's like always constantly evolving, constantly adapting things to make it better.
What would you say is the biggest challenge that you're having with your marketing? Like some the things I commonly hear are it's so expensive, or I'm not getting any results, or I don't seem to be able to think of anything to write about, or I get leads, but they're not the right type. What would you say your gripes are at this point?
I think my engagement is really good. Obviously not perfect, but I feel like I'm like attracting people through my post. I guess just sometimes the thing that I struggle with is the call to action on the bottom of my social media posts, like how to like introduce a call to action without seeming slimy or salesy.
Yes, those are great questions. So the call to action, before we get into it, I would just say that first of all, if your content is good enough and you do a good enough job articulating the challenge that a particular group of people are having and what the issues are with the current solutions and what kind of solutions might be better, if you do a good job of setting up the LinkedIn posting or setting up the newsletter or whatever it is that you're doing, you actually don't even need a call to action. It's the times when there isn't enough logical flow from one to the next that you kind of need to remind them. Or if it's something that people wouldn't necessarily just reach out to you and say, I want to talk about. Okay. So if, like, for example, if you're talking about Social Security, Social Security COLA, right? And inflation, and you have a webinar on it, but you, in your posting or in your newsletter or whatever, you talk about the problem of seniors running out of money and how financial planning is the solution for that, incorporating the Social Security COLA comes out every year in October, whatever. Okay. And you make a pretty good case for it. You do an awesome job with that. People are going to just reach out to you if they're really that impressed with it. If they're like, you hit the chord with me. I need to do something about this. Let's talk. You might not even need a call to action in that case. And yes, it might kind of come off salesy if you're always like putting like, hey, contact me for a consultation. Hey, contact me if you want to set up time to write. It can sound like you're peddling. All right. But you do need to do a call to action if it's not logical what the next step should be. So, for example, if you have a slip sheet you want people to read, if you have a webinar you want them to sign up for, you might just want them to sign up for your newsletter. All right. So, the first thing I would say is like, you don't need it really because they're going to know that you're a financial advisor. They're going to know what you do because y'all make it clear on your profiles, right? I help
Mhm.
people retire with Social Security or any, right? They're probably going to know to reach out to you if you make a good enough case for it on your profile. They're going to look at it before they reach out to you. But if it's not obvious, we have a webinar, we have this, that, then I would do the call to action. But I do hesitate to say do the call to action every single time. The content should be good enough that they want to do something every single time. And if you worry about that part, the call to action kind of generally will take care of itself. The other thing I want to just say about calls to action, we're going to get into this because we're going to go look at Danielle's calls and what she's writing, but it doesn't always have to be contact me for a meeting because that also gets old after a while too. Why not have it just be engage with me? All right. Because on social media, for example, that's a great asset. Or even if it's a newsletter, at the end of my newsletter, sometimes I'll say, can you share this? Or I'll say, can you comment back to me and just email me and tell me, what did you think of this? What are some good questions I need to talk about for next time? And I get so many responses from that. And it like warms my heart because I'm like, there's somebody on the other end of the line, there's somebody listening. And I found that the people who reach out to me and say, could you talk about this next? 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, those are the people that then say, I've still been reading. Thank you so much for your very thoughtful and customized responses to our questions. I'd like to meet with you and discuss blah, blah, blah. Right. So it's like there are these little kind of wins you could do along the way to get them closer to you. Because sometimes the call to action of meet with me is it's too far. You might just be too far from people. So I would just say that like if you're calling and calling and calling using meet with me, meet with me, meet with me, and no one's biting, you need to start doing some breadcrumbs to make a trail, all right, to get them closer to you where they're like, she had a webinar, I loved it. Or she said for me to send her my questions or send me she said for me to send her my social security statement and I did. And look, she clarified this for me. That was awesome. I like her now. It's like you want to kind of ingratiate them. And then it could even be on social media. It could be and I've done this too. What did you think of this newsletter? What did you think of this posting? Rank it 1 to 5. Because people kind of like doing that too. Of course, I've actually never had anybody that was like, this stinks, and like was really mean about it. The people who liked it are the ones that are going to respond generally. I mean, I do get people that are like, because I'm kind of outspoken a lot, but you are generally going to get the people who liked the content because in their mind, they're grateful to you and they kind of like you because you're doing something positive for them. So just keep in mind, the call to actions can be creative. It could just even be send this to somebody that you think needs to hear it if it's a really strong message. But all of these things will happen anyways, by the way, if you do a good enough job with the content itself, which is why I'm always like, oh, financial advisors, please be more relevant. Oh, financial advisors, please spend more time on your content, produce less, but spend more time thinking it out and coming up with something new and different. So Danielle, I'm just going to look at your LinkedIn first. Okay. Is that okay if we start there?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Okay. So first of all, I like this banner. It's colorful. It's engaging. It's personal. Like it has Danielle on it. I like Danielle's banner photo there. Good job. Danielle, can I give you some constructive feedback here on this banner?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So for those of you who are just listening to this podcast over like Spotify or whatever, and you might be in your cars, you would probably want to watch this on video. It's on my YouTube channel, but also I'll just describe it to you. The banner photo is at the top of the LinkedIn page. It's the kind of rectangle behind the person's headshot. Okay. I see this mistake on banners a lot. I don't really need to know about your great press credentials. Like to me, it comes off as kind of sorry to say this, like it's kind of a brag. And it's not that I don't find that to be credible and that it adds something, but I also feel like everything else you've got here, I am more interested in. Like your guide to navigating life's unexpected financial turns. Awesome. That helps me understand how you help me. Book a complimentary meeting with me. Okay. Yeah. I mean, at least it's, again, like, I don't know if I'm close enough to you yet to want to do that, but at least you're showing me an action I can take because I might remember like, okay, that might sound good for later. I'll keep that in mind. All right. So it's good. But what I feel this could be done without is, are you ready for unexpected financial times in retirement? Get a free retirement readiness checklist in my featured section. Wow. Okay. So, right. So this is where it gets to be too much. Okay. Here's the other point about calls to action. Too many calls to action is like, I can't do all these things. You know what I'm saying? So I'm probably not going to do anything because I'm just like going to just block it out. Right. Because also, like, what happens is I'm reading this, I'm thinking, oh, which one do I do? Which one do I do? Which one do I do? And then guess what happens? Kids' school calls that they have to take like tomorrow off from school because the basement got flooded or something. which all kinds of outlandish things happen. Okay. So, you see what I'm saying? It's a little bit too distracting. I would just leave it at, I mean, and the other thing is, I like how you're agitating. Are you ready for unexpected financial times in retirement? The text is too small, is the other thing. Like, I'm almost like
Yeah.
squinting to read it. And I'm not going to read it because it's just too much text. It's a little busy, right? So agitate, but you already agitated, right? Like navigating life's unexpected financial turns. Okay, yeah, I get it why I need you. I would have just said, I would have taken, and then like these press like things right here. And again, like Danielle, I'm not trying to take that away from you. I will discuss elsewhere how you can incorporate these. But too much text in the little circle oval box. What shape is it? See, maybe I should go back to elementary school despite the basement being flooded. Um, too much text in that oval. I would just say, financial advisors, keep it to 1 3 to 4 word phrase on your banner photo.
I need
Okay.
to declutter it, is what you're saying.
A little
Which is
bit.
fine. It's hard to I don't take any of your advice like to like as hurtful advice. I take it as in like you really care about the people you're working with and that you want them to do the best that they can to put themselves forward. It's hard to like I feel like the banner is kind of like your advertisement, like your billboard. And so it's hard to know exactly like if you're like like cluttering it too much or if it's just the right amount to get someone's attention. And so yeah, I like your suggestion. I wrote it down as
I
um
hear you. You 100. And I love that you're saying this, less is more. Bigger, shorter phrasing would make more of an impression on me. I'd rather
okay.
see you have less, but at least have it retained in my mind than throwing too much at me and I'm just going to blur over it. Okay. And
Yeah.
thank you for not taking things personally, by the way. To all of you that have been like sending me hate mail all the time. See, take a page from her book, y'all. All right. And you're right about, I love the point that you're making that the top of the page is really your advertising section. Like this is where it's incumbent upon you to make a big impression at the top of your LinkedIn page. I can't advertise enough that this is the headline. If you mess it up here, nobody is going to scroll. And the most important elements are the headshot, the banner photo, and the headline, which would be what Danielle has right here, a financial planner spreading awareness on long-term care and caregiving one story at a time. I like that this is descriptive, okay? But I also feel like it doesn't tell me who you work with. Like, okay, so long-term care and caregiving. But who does that help? Like, does that help the senior citizens or does that help the caregivers to the senior citizens? And long-term care, like, is that long-term care insurance or is that long-term financial planning? See, so like, again, less is more. I'd rather have a direct, specific targeting than something that maybe like sounds descriptive but doesn't necessarily like bullseye. You know
Okay.
what I'm
I need
saying?
to focus on hitting the bullseye, not the targets around it.
What and for whom? Okay,
Okay.
so I help senior citizens and their caregivers to navigate life's unexpected financial turns. Like, I almost don't even care about the what part because you've kind of made the point up here in the navigating life's unexpected financial turns part. If I have a problem of, oh my gosh, I'm 54 and my parents are 79 and 80, and how do I know that I'm not going to get a huge bill for them from the nursing home? What is the nursing home bill, anyways? I don't even know. Does their long-term care that they have even cover that? Like all these questions, this doesn't like necessarily speak to me. This is like I almost feel like it might be me, but I don't know. You might be able to help me, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. And that kind of uncertainty or doubt or confusion, any inkling of that, everybody, is what is going to get you passed over, is what is going to get people remembering to forget about you. All right. So I would definitely make this a little more targeted, just like kind of smack them right in the face with it. Just like, do I work with you or not? Right. So, and then the about section, I am Danielle Miura, financial planner, content creator, and former family caregiver. My mission is to help family caregivers on their journey and inspire them to take care of their financial well being while providing the best care for their families. I like it. I don't need necessarily to know about you being a content creator. I might not even know what that means if I'm a like, but I mean, let's say I'm that like 57-year-old caregiver. I'm a dispatcher at the local police precinct and my parents are 79 and 80. I've got problems on my mind. Like, I'm not into social media necessarily, but my friend sends me over to you, or I see you on I see you on a webinar and I come visit you and it's like content creator. Like, that's just kind of cluttering to me, right? It's not that relevant to me. A former family caregiver. I would say I'm Danielle Miura, and as a financial planner, I am on a mission to help family caregivers on their journey. Well, that on their journey is actually, sorry, that's also kind of a filler word. Sorry. To take I'm Danielle Miura. I am a financial planner, and my mission is to help family caregivers to take care of their financial well-being while providing the best care for their families. Having been a family caregiver myself, that would be like, that's not going to make it. You having been a family caregiver, which thank you for being in that role, important role in society and in your family. I care less about that. And I care more about who am I even talking to right now? Like, I need to be able to identify you before you need to give me the credibility of, I was a family caregiver. I am a CFP. I have whatever years of the business. Like, first, should I even be talking to you is the question I need to answer. And so I would, again, bullseye it right there. My name's Danielle. I'm a financial planner who helps family caregivers to take care of their financial well-being while providing for their families. Having been a family caregiver myself, I have found, I mean, because that should be see, my life with having been this is a great, you see, you're kind of doing this here in the second paragraph. Having been a financial planner myself, I found my life was transformed when my loved one's health declined. Even though I'm so honored, it usually isn't something you wish for. Something with see, that's a great, and now you're telling a story. Love it. Great. But I do need a little, because I'm scrolling, because I'm interested. I need you to give me a call to action other than please feel to reach out if you want to know more about me or want to talk. I might do that if I'm a bold, brave person, but maybe if I'm a little shy, maybe I'm not sure if I'm even qualified to work with you. You're going to charge me a ton of money. I just had to pay a security deposit because I opened up a new apartment. Now I've got $2,000 in my bank account. That can't pay you, right? So, like, I would have preferred to hear a little bit of elaboration about I can work with, I don't know. I would have said something like, please join my newsletter, visit my website to learn about services I offer to family caregivers and their families, something, but just reach out to me again is like, I'm not that close to you yet. Like, help me be, what I say to people to write in their LinkedIn about sections is a great way to kind of sum it up is, I'm building a community here because to some extent that is what social media is about. People say, oh, I'm on social media to get leads. Well, okay. A lot of you don't have the following yet that like it would be that easy. And you really will do much better in the long term looking at social media as a way to build a virtual community of friends, comrades, potential centers of influence, and potential clients, and to try to convert them, to try to nourish, educate, and develop. You will be much better in the long term if you take that approach. And it's not that you're being opaque about what your true goals are. You're being very clear about how you help people. But if you're on social media to take rather than to give, well, let me tell you, it's going to take them less than 1 second to figure that out. And that might be the extent of the relationship or the time that they're willing to spend with you. You are much better off playing the long game. And maybe that means that you have to put in a little bit more time, but I don't really think that financial advice is very well rendered in this kind of pressure quota sales driven kind of a way. Now, I have seen people in the position of like, my business is going to close in 30 days if I don't get new clients. Let's hope it never gets to that point. You may have to be a little bit more direct in those cases. We could talk about, if anyone has questions about that, we could talk about that on another podcast about what you should do in that case. But I mean, if you have to, go drive Uber, but I really would prefer to see people on social media building a community, because it can work so beautifully when that happens. So what I would just suggest to say, if you don't have anything else as the call to action, is, hey, I'm building a community here. My mission is to, as reiterate the mission, my mission is to help family caregivers. If you have ideas or thoughts you'd like to communicate to me, please reach out. I'd love to have you comment on my postings or share your postings with me so I could pass them to my network if you think that it would be helpful. Or if you'd like to just send me a note and say hello, are you on a similar mission? Would love to hear from you. Because then you're going to get the people that aren't necessarily going to rule you out and aren't necessarily going to do business with you today, but kind of think that you're cool and kind of have that same vision. Because a lot of people can come and go and things can change. And if you and somebody else are ideologically aligned and there's a give back and forth over time, that's the stuff that great businesses are made of, regardless of how we're involved on social media. Just in general, that's a great way to be in business.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I've been able to do that, but I feel like I'm building a community.
Yes. From what I know, it sounds like that too, because I know you other than on my podcast. So what do you think? Did I talk too much? There was like going on and rambling.
No, I thought it was good. I think a lot of people have the trouble of having like a CTA that like seems compelling enough to attract people, but doesn't seem slimy, especially in the fee only space. And so I think it will really help people.
Just get people to talk. With your call to action, if you just do anything, just get them to talk. Leave me a comment. Leave me your opinion. What do you think? Am I off base with this? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are your questions? Did I present this accurately? Who else has described this accurately? Just get them to engage with you, because you just never know what you could learn from somebody. Featured section, free retirement readiness checklist. I like that. How can I help? Work with me. Okay. Yeah. The featured section should have a call to action. This is too many calls to action though. I'd like to see a posting here that was a little bit more maybe colorful, because just having the same two kind of formatted thumbnails, these thumbnails kind of, a thumbnail for all of you that aren't watching on my YouTube channel, a thumbnail is an image that appears over the posting that you click in order to read the posting. She has two thumbnails that are kind of formatted the same, and it's kind of having the effect of like drowning it out a little bit. So I need a little bit more contrast. You could post something from one of your posting. Yeah, like a real one. Wow. Okay. So let's take one of your postings and see. So this is an adorable picture of Danielle with a baby. Oh, so cute. Okay. Yes, I would put this as a feature. This is a kind of nostalgic photo of her on a swing with a baby, her baby. And I think I would put that as a featured posting, because it's going to show a little bit more human side of you. People are always curious about a story or a history or a tale from somebody's past. And it looks like you're telling that. Yeah. Okay. So, and this is a great posting. You never know. You never really expect how overwhelming managing finances can be until life throws you a curveball. In my early 20s, it was just me and my husband, but then surprise, I found out I was pregnant. Amen. By the way, we saved, we planned, and then crash. My grandma fell. Poor grandma, by the way. And with that came new caregiving responsibilities. Those familiar financial worries crept back in. And she's telling a story, right? And you don't have to figure it out all alone. Once a month, I offer individuals a free hour to meet with me. The first 10 minutes will be a brief webinar about 5 tips on how to take care of your well-being. After we'll brainstorm. Oh, okay. So this is a want to join my next AMA.
Mhm.
Okay. So this is the call to action she has at the end. Once a month. And I like how you set it apart using a little calendar symbol. That's great. Good idea, by the way. I offer individuals a free hour to meet with me. See, it's not clear. Is this a webinar public format or is it a one-on-one meeting? Because it sounds like it's a kind of webinar style meeting.
It's a, yeah, webinar and AMA style. Mhm.
Okay. I would say, okay, no acronyms, right? Remember, I'm the police precinct dispatcher. Like I handle the 911 calls, okay? Like all day long, I'm dealing with people that they think the neighbors are coming after them, whatever, call them 911. And then so make it easy for me, right? Once a month, I offer an ask me anything open to the public session. That's what I would have said. Okay. Because if you're talking about a free hour to meet with me, I'm feeling like you're trying to rope me into meeting with you to try to sell me something, which is why you made it clear it was free because you're not going to try to sell me right away. Like kind of, you know what I'm saying? This has been done so many, and I'm not saying you're doing this. I'm just saying this is like, oh, been done so many times in our industry that like we just got to make clear, absolute clarity. Okay. The first 10 minutes would be a brief webinar. Well, you already said 10 minutes, so brief is kind of redundant with it, right? Would be the
Mhm.
first 10 minutes would be I would have said discussion of 5 tips, or in the first 5 minutes, I'll offer everybody I'll discuss 5 ways to take care of your financial well-being while providing for your family. Tip, like if you say, it's a whole way you phrase it, 5 tips on how to take care of your financial well-being. I like better 5 ways to take care of your financial well-being. It's a little bit of a difference in phrasing. I know it's a subtlety, but ways is making me feel more empowered. Like I'm imagining myself doing something. Whereas tips is like concealer tips for ages 35 plus, right? Or like how to put on your tips for putting on lipstick to make sure it doesn't bleed outside the lip liner, right? So it's like tips, great tips. Like I'm thinking tips, cooking tips, makeup tips, what kind of like ways? Teach me the ways. Okay. All right. After we'll brainstorm ideas, challenges, and connect with resources that can help. I would just say after we're going to have an interactive discussion where you could fire all after we you could fire all the questions at me that you want. No limit. Date, blah blah. Want to join my next AMA? Again, AMA. It could be American Medical Association, right? There could be so many things, right? So just scan the QR code below to sign up. Yeah, nice. Make it easy. I actually have a QR code. It hasn't like even been used once yet. So I'm kind of like, well, I paid for this. Come on, right? Like, can somebody just set up a meeting? Can somebody do that for me, by the way? Just like go to my LinkedIn and set up a meeting with me if you haven't already met me, just so I can say somebody used my QR code that I paid my IT guy like $100 for that no one's used it yet. Anyways, yeah, QR code is good. I guess it's the wave of the future. I believe in it. I don't know. Did people set up on your QR code, Danielle, or no?
Yeah, so far, like I got this as like a free, like just transferring website to QR code, but
Ugh,
so far people have registered using the QR code. I might switch it up and do like a link instead of a QR code in the future, or give both options.
yeah,
Because if you're using your phone, a QR code may not be as accessible.
right. Okay. Well, I like it. I like the picture. I like the story. I like the whole posting, but just kind of hunkering down on the call to action. I think it's a good call to action. And this is a nice example of just offering yourself out, committing some time to the public to get closer to you, to get to know you better. And one of the things I would suggest that anyone has any of these public meetings or forums or workshops or whatever, the people who show up, and especially the ones who ask questions, are the ones that you should really be keeping track of. You should have somebody, if you are presenting, you should have somebody keep track of who is on the webinar. And then you should have somebody, if anybody asks a question, have somebody from your office call or you call afterwards to just say, how was everything? Did I answer your questions? What other information can I provide to you? Because what I've found is that in the 1 to 3 days after a webinar, the people who ask questions often will convert if I follow up with them, way more so than the people who didn't ask questions. So if I'm going to follow up with somebody, it's going to be the people who are on the call and who asked questions, because they're kind of testing you out.
Yeah, so far I've been successful with that. I haven't had any conversions, but I have gotten some nice email responses. So,
Right. But I would put them on a priority list, because somebody doesn't go onto a webinar and then ask all kinds of questions if they're not interested in it. If they don't have
or
a
interested in
problem,
getting help.
like if people are too busy. I'm not going to show up and be talking to you about, like, I'm not going to show up and go to like a webinar about buying your first home in New York City if I'm just like renting for the rest of my life and have no interest. I have too many things to do. I'm not going to show up, and I'm especially not going to ask a question unless it's something that I am intending to do. So please, financial advisors, don't let this slip away. This is a huge opportunity. Anytime you have any kind of, and yes, it is extra work, but you can't miss the opportunity. You can't really, because it's webinars are huge, can be a huge opportunity for lead conversion, but people mess it up because they focus so much on like the actual presentation. Like, this drives me nuts about webinars too, or ask me anything. And I like how you're making it interactive. People focus so much on the presentation, but if you just allowed people to talk and ask their questions to you live, like an ask me anything format, if you could get people to do that, that you won't even have to have any slides, no slide. Like, drives me nuts. Sarah, what's the best length of a slide deck for my presentation for my webinar? How about 0 slides? Or how about a slide with, hi, I'm Danielle. Here's my email. What are your questions? Like, I'd love that to be your slide deck. Is this useful so far? This Does My Marketing Stink episode?
Yeah, I have a list of things that I need to go over.
Okay. Okay. So here's a posting she has on social media. Mommy, what happens when you die? Okay. And then she's got a little caption with her name, her title, financial planner, and then her picture. And again, reiterating the phrase, Mommy, what happens when you die? And there's a picture of an adorable, this probably looks like maybe a 6-year-old.
Yeah, it's my daughter. So
Yes.
you're getting I didn't plan it this way, but you're getting the baby version and then the grown-up version in the two posts you're going over.
Yeah, she's so cute. She's got like a tutu on for everyone that's not watching this, but she's so cute. Is she like, she's got a pink purse? That's so cute. How old is she?
She's 6.
6.
Well, she'll be 6 soon. Yeah.
Okay. So cute. Anyways, okay. So I had to answer one of the hardest. Okay. After trying to hide my tears, I had to answer one of the hardest questions. The other questions, like, why is she in a wheelchair or why is she in the hospital? I had no parent guide or handbook to answer this question. Again, it's it's not a cheerful subject, but it's a wonderful story. It's like you're engaging me, you're bringing me in here. Grief isn't something we can completely prepare for, but we can plan ahead in other ways. How do you prepare for these conversations? Share your experiences below. And I mean, it looks like you've got 20 comments here. So you tell a very kind of poignant story, and then you say, how do you prepare for these conversations about this kind of very sensitive topic? So I would say that maybe the reason you got such a great engagement on this post is that you were able to hit a chord and handle it sensitively, I would say. And then, yeah, people are coming in here. This is person with, I'm not sure what this Jacob Candle does here, but elevating healthcare, I would assume, and not a financial advisor. And this guy's commenting here. A caregiver advocates are commenting. So it's looks like it's some pretty good conversations, and it's got over 30 likes on it. And I would say it's probably a lot of financial advisors and a mix of your kind of like caregiving community. But this is an example of a great caregiving post. And so the call to action is saying essentially engage with this community. Did you find that?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to find a mix between, as you said, like just keep saying like I don't want to say every post like book a meeting with me. So I'm trying to switch it up to create community, but also like try to benefit myself.
Yeah. Um, so I would say that it's a good idea to vary it. And in fact, I would do more community building than anything else.
Okay.
So if you're doing 3 postings, I would have 2 out of every 3 have the call to action be engage with this posting, share it, write a comment. What do you think of this? Am I wrong or am I right? Share your opinion. Rate this on a scale of 1 to 5, something like that. Instead of, I would just have it be the one to the many rather than to the one to the one. Set up a meeting with me.
Yeah, that sounds good. That's what I've been trying to do.
Yeah. I would have, like you did in the first one, though, for the call to action, I would have given a little bit of punctuation. I would have maybe set it apart a little bit because it's easy for this last line to just get lost. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, all right, when you give a call to action, meet with me, join my webinar, share your comments below. You don't want to wind down to it. Okay. And I feel like you're kind of doing this when you present the way that you kind of tone down at the end, and then the call to action is almost said in this like muted voice. We don't want to do that. We want to hit them with the call to action in a crescendo. If anything, we want a crescendo. We don't want to mute ourselves right before the call to action. So what you've got to do is you've got to kind of jolt them with some language or an emoji or something right before you give the call to action. You got to wake them up a little bit. So, like, for example, this is how the end of the posting was written, but I knew this moment was inevitable, so I gave the most honest and gentle answer I could, blah, blah. Grief isn't something we can completely prepare for, but we can plan ahead in other ways. And then you have this sentence: talking about finances and legal matters can ease the burden when that tough time comes. How do you prepare for these conversations? Share your experiences below. The See, this is where the diminuendo comes, where you're kind of dimming, you're muting, like talking about finances, medical, right? I feel like it's dying from the post is dying down. I would have said, grief isn't something we can completely prepare for, but we can plan ahead in other ways. I would have said something a little bit maybe more dramatic. I would have presented some emoticons, I think they're called, like something emotional, like an emotional emoji, something. And then I would have said something jolting, like maybe in all caps, like, or like, I'm not a big fan of screaming at people with like long sentences made of all caps. I would capitalize just like one word in the phrase. I would say something like, okay, grief, it should read like this: grief isn't something we can completely prepare for, but we can plan ahead in other ways. Do not assume, do not leave it to somebody else. And I would have put not NOT in caps to wake me up a little bit. And then, how do you prepare for these conversations? Next line: share your experiences below. I would have started to make, like, do not lengthen the span of the text in the end of the posting. You want to chop, you want to start making it more concise, shorter, bolder, punchier, and boom, there's the call to action. Instead of longer, sprawling phrases and sentences that are going to kind of put me to sleep.
Yeah, so that sentence could be instead like you don't want to leave people to just pick up your pieces or something of that some sort.
Yeah, that would, another poignant phrase would have been much better. See, much better phrasing than me, right? Do not leave the pieces to somebody else to pick up, right? like, yeah, impact, right? Is it okay to use government benefits? Here's my take. And then there's a picture of her, for those of you that are listening, not watching, with a, what's this, like a letter board?
Mhm.
What is it even called? Like it's just a wooden framed board with letters put up on it. Um, like
I
you
was
see
bored. I
outside
want to switch
restaurants
things
that's
up.
like salmon fillet, like $3.99 today only, or whatever, right? Government
Yeah.
benefits are a safety net, not a handout. Okay, so she's just making a statement, written statement, holding up a sign, essentially making this written statement about government benefits. And is it okay to use government benefits? Here's my take. And let me read the rest of the posting. I've been in the industry for years. I've seen people hesitate to use government assistance, but here's the thing, government benefits are there for a reason. They're a safety net, not a handout. Still unsure. Remember, you've paid into these. Life can be unpredictable. Don't hesitate to reach out for help when you need it. What's your experience using government assistance programs? Okay. Well, this has 7 comments on it, although it has 46 likes. So, what the other thing is, by the way, when we post something, we should always analyze how many likes did it get, how many comments, et cetera. But we should also analyze how many comments did it get relative to the likes, because we always want to increase the comments. The comments, not the likes, are what makes the posting successful on any social media platform. Remember that all these social media platforms, all they want is like rockin', party, party, party. They want everybody to be jumping in, cannonballing into the pool party. They don't want people to like sit in a lawn chair by the side and not contribute anything and not cannonball into the pool. So when you have a lot of comments, people commenting back and forth, I've had people like get into fights on some of my postings, which like I love the debate, but it also is a benefit that like that makes the algorithm go crazy when people are like going back and forth. When people seem to be passionate about something, that also does very well. So I would just say here, like, the fact that a lot of people like this posting, but people seem to be a little hesitant to engage and comment, shows that they were maybe wanted to be anonymous because of the call to action, which is,
Yeah.
what's your experience with using government assistance programs? I think given it's this LinkedIn is a professional platform, I think a lot of people would be hesitant for fear of like what their boss would think or what their clients would think or whatever. If they were like, well, I had to be on Medicaid for 10 years because I just couldn't pay my bills, or then I went bankrupt. Like, people could be a little skittish about stuff like that. There is very much a stigma. So I would not have said that. I would have said, like, actually here, Danielle, is where I would not maybe have asked for as much of a comment. I would have given a one-to-one call to action here, a private, like, contact me to set up a meeting if you have questions about government, like, you know what I'm saying? This is where I would have done the one-to-one.
I think a lot of my trouble is just I have good ideas and I have good storytelling ability, but I feel like the editing is the problem that I sometimes face when creating social media posts.
I would tell you this to help you. Write the first line and write the last line, and then write the rest of the post around it. But I would spend more time on the first and the last line, because that's what's going to get people to read it and get people to respond in a way that would make the posting successful.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can fill in between. Yeah.
The stuff in between is kind of like the ham in the sandwich. That's where you can kind of mess up, and it's not going to be as much of a big deal. But if you mess up the first or the last line, the posting might fail.
Okay.
Especially the first line. The first line is like, if the last line is 10%, I would say the first line is probably 85% of where your success is going to come from. So I guess thank you, Danielle. Just to sum it up, I would say that her marketing does not stink. What do you think, everybody in the audience? Do you agree or disagree? I hope you agree, but whatever opinion you have is your own opinion. I would just summarize this by saying that I think you've you've definitely put your mission out there and you've focused on, like, you're definitely generous and giving. This social media is generous and giving. There's a lot of heart there. There's a lot of humanity there. All right. You come across as very much a real regular person. And I think that's maybe why you've done well. I think the audience is seeing that. So those are the benefits of what Danielle's done. Areas of improvement, I think, are where people, after they get through that initial first layer of social media skill, all right, when you get to the next level or the next like level of competencies, I would say that you would need to develop, is this is where a lot of people are after they get through that first pass of, am I even engaging enough? Am I relevant? Am I real? Which you are, which is, well, how do I really make this work? And how do I make this a funnel? And how do I make it constantly a source of growth? How do I build on this nice foundation? And the building is where you really have to, you're going to use the finer tools here of, this is where maybe writing skills are necessary to hone, because like I said, it's the first line and the last line, but especially the first line. It's using that judgment about what kind of a call to action do I use for this posting. It's, am I varying my calls to action enough?
Mhm.
But that's what I would say. So I would say this is overall pretty good marketing, tell you the truth.
Thank you. I'm glad it doesn't stink.
Does not, I do not think this marketing stinks. And if I did, then I would tell you, definitely. But I hope it was still an engaging enough show for everybody in the audience. Let me know. What do you think? Was this a good episode of Does Your Marketing Stink? Or do I myself stink at podcasting? I'd be, hey, tell me. It's your opinion. You're entitled to it, sure as heck, right? So if you want to be a guest on Does My Marketing Stink, please go ahead and reach out and send me a note, and I'll tell you if it stinks or not. And Danielle, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.